From Senegal to Sugar Hill, trace the bloodline. 100 years of brilliance through the color line. They thought the shackles broke but kept the mental chain. Langston penned the future while they legislated pain. Harlem's ballrooms birthed the cosmos in mahogany, while lynching trees still decorated southern botany. Josephine Waker's pearls and Garvey's Navy ships. Du Bois debating destiny with scholarship on his lips. The Renaissance was a renaissance of West resistance, fam. Every trumpet blast from Armstrong was a battering ram. They gave us minstrel shows, we gave them Sora Neal. Turned depression into art, made the fabricated real. Cotton Club excluded us from tables every set. Performed the Venus nightly, never free from the deck. But Bessie Smith could shatter glass, shatter cash, shatter lies. Every note she sang contained a revolution in disguise. Build temples from the rubble, make cathedrals from the struggle. Turned the margins to the center, now they study what we scribble. We built temples from the rubble, every generation double the inheritance of genius that they tried to keep us from. Fast forward through the decades, watch the pattern reassemble. Malcolm's speeches, Martin's marches, every voice begins to tremble to the earth until the structure shows its fractures. FBI was tracking every coon with every pastor, every actor. 40 acres never came but 40 minutes on a stage. Can reconvene your consciousness and channelize the rage. From bebop to hip-hop, the fool lines mathematical. Each generation weaponized the beautiful, the radical. They gave us Reagan, now there's crack and mass incarceration. We gave them Public Enemy and blueprints for liberation. The Harlem Renaissance never ended, just evolved its form. Every freestyle cipher is a brainstorm, he's a storm. Where the children of the talented, the tenth that was prophesied, inherit the fire that the water couldn't wash aside. They tried to write us out the narrative. We offered all on text, 100 years of proof, and that we're destined. Where was next? Temples from the rubble, made cathedrals from the struggle. Turned the margins to the center, now they study what we scribble. We built temples from the rubble, every generation double the inheritance of genius that they tried to keep us from.
This is Under the Groove Podcast, and we're here for another edition, presenting to you guys another edition of our home queens, our queen mothers. These sisters, they're here to share, or their experiences with you guys in terms of what they've been through, what they learned, and somewhat, let's say, who they are. I'm gonna give the floor to Sister Denise so she can introduce the Red Ale.
Hey, you guys, how you doing? I'm Soldier, and I thought it was important to bring Miss Cinda to you guys. Miss Cinda has worked with us in our mental health issues. Miss Cinda has a master's in psychology, and she came to the tables a few years ago just offering her services to those of us who were meeting. We were meeting at Miss Bonnie's house, and the assistance that she gave us in dealing with issues from childhood, issues from marriages, issues from police abuse, all the issues that were facing our communities, Miss Cinda was trained to deal with it for us. So I want you to know, get to know Miss Cinda, and if it works out, we're gonna try to come once a month and just deal with the issues from a professional level. We have things placed in our community. We got Homegirls Unity with the healing circles that MAG is doing. So we're out here in the community and we're dealing with this mental health issue. And Ms. Cinda.
Okay. Hi, my name is Cinda, and I am a mental hygienist. I'm gonna let you take a moment and think about that. What does that mean, right? So my job is to come change the perspective. This is what God gave me. I went to school, like she said, I have a master's in psychology from Pepperdine, and it took God to basically pull my hair and twist my arm to go back and get my master's. So out of obedience, I did. I come from a platform of Christianity, leading with that first. And it's just basically, how can I get you to change your perspective? Because so often the way that we think is what keeps us in a rut. And so if we get the opportunity to change our perspective, just to change that, might be that micro thought that could change everything, right? Because we do things all the time the same way. So if we could change the rhythm of it and get out of that just for a minute, it could change your whole life. And so that's what my job is to change the perspective. Now, I'm going to give you the backstory of how I got to the tables. And by trade, I'm a stylist. I've been doing hair for 38 years. God sent me back to school to help his people. And so I say that he gave me the opportunity to do what I want to do, and now I get to do what he wants me to do. I can make you beautiful on the outside and on the inside as well. So I had a client named Bonnie Williams, and the Lord told me, ask her to facilitate a group at her house. I'm like, no. And he was like, yeah. So I was obedient and asked Bonnie, what do you think about this? And she was like, yeah. So I'm sure everybody knows her backstory, who she was married to.
Yeah.
Oh, should I tell the story?
Yeah.
Okay. She was married to Tookie Williams. They have a son, I believe. And so we were able to talk and deal with some of the trauma of even what the hood brought, what life brought, all the things. Now, my backstory, I never was a gang member, but I hung around them because I like bad boys. So I kind of got a little bit, but I wasn't in the trenches. To be honest, I wasn't. I have a son. He joined a gang out of pain, which made me have to do research on why men join gangs. And we can get deeper into that story later on. But it helped me in learning how the brain works, how people move, why men do what they do, why the plight of women and why we love them so hard. And it can go so deep. But anyway, my job is just to help change the perspective.
Okay. And that's why we have you here, to help give a different perspective, the woman's side. And this is not the first, this is the second occasion where we've had sisters come on and speak to their perspective, their experiences, and their involvement in the community. So it's an honor to have you here.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Very pleased and blessed to have you. Thank you for coming. You got into this, you were a hairstylist at first.
By trade.
Then you got into school. Why psychology?
Okay. So what people don't know is hairstylists are psychologists anyway, right?
Like
so I therapist, right? So it was innate in me to help people.
Okay.
And literally God told me it's time to go to school. I had already been in hair for years, right? And again, resisting, but I had got locked into my own little system. So often people will say college isn't for everybody. Why go to college? You can learn on your own, which is not a false statement. But what I got to learn is going to school is how literally the brain works, all the mechanisms. And then I also got to know how groupthink is. So like when you go to gang, that's groupthink. How does the group think about this system that you're in, right? And then I got to go deeper into why did you decide that you wanted to be in this system, right? Because everything is about a system, to be honest. So why did you want to be in this system? So what I've learned is most of it comes from brokenness. And men especially like to be in a group, right? So just like with animals, they like to be in a group. Men like to be in a group. Even if you guys don't speak a word, you still want that group. You want that approval. You want all the mechanisms that go. And most men come from broken families. They don't have a father figure. So then your big homies are your father figure. And they get to discipline you. They get to put wisdom in you as it pertains to the system. And so that's what you gravitate towards that. So that's kind of like thing. I love to work with men. I love to change their perspective on why they do the things that they do or how they can change, because they often think that they know what a woman can think, and that's not really what they're thinking, right? Mm-hmm. So that's kind of my job.
You spoke about this thing that's broken that draws men.
Yes, sir.
One respect was the home.
Yes, sir.
Are there other aspects of being broken that draw or entice men to go to gangs?
So let's say, because you could come from a mother and a father, that's right, and still not get your needs met, mm-hmm. right? And then you have society that will say, well, men, especially Black men, you only have two emotions, and that's aggression and anger. Mm-hmm. But the crayon box have so many other emotions that we're not taught. So you could be frustrated, but it's going to manifest as anger and or aggression because no one taught you that. Tell me that you're frustrated and then tell me the why, right? So to give you a little story, I have a grandson that I'm help raise, and he is 14 now. But when he was younger, he would get in trouble because he only knew aggression. And so one day I was like, are you angry or frustrated? And he was like, I'm frustrated. Why are you frustrated? Because I don't understand the math. And the teacher wasn't teaching him the way he could learn. Okay, now I have a cue as to what do I need to do different to make sure this boy gets what he needs, because the only thing that he knows is anger and frustration, because no one hears that I learn a little different. My brain is not the same. Right. So often, because we don't see that their brain is made differently, we mistreat them, or they're a problem, but it's really their brain that you need to learn how to teach them the way they learn versus let me teach you the way that I want to teach you. So then they go through life under the guise of I'm a bad boy, but it's not that you're a bad boy. It's just that your brain works differently. So then, because you don't have the support that you need, now I'm going to go to, since you call me bad, I'm going to do bad things. And then I'm going to attract gang members or whatever that looks like. It's a progression. It's not just I'm going to jump right into it. It's like, well, this is what you say I am anyway. So let's go. I'm going to do what you say that I am.
There's a process to that.
There's a process to it. And words are so important.
Very much so. Question.
Sure.
And it pertains to what we're talking about now of the youth. Well, how do we approach those? And a lot of them aren't youth anymore. You know, how do we then clean the mind?
I love that you asked me that question, because I have a conversation for you personally, because I went back and watched some videos.
All right.
Right. And so you have made a statement that your son asked you, and I'm not really sure how old he is, because that's the part I remember, that you wouldn't tell your son about your life. Right. And you was like, no. And I'm saying you did a disservice, in my opinion, because if you tell him, he won't be enticed to go do it, because then he builds an imagination of what his daddy was in the street. Right. And I'm going to assume that you won't tell him is to protect him, but you're not really protecting him, because you need to tell him, because our parents are our first little G gods, right? So you're his little G god and you're everything to him, which is most boys. They want their father's approval. They long for their father's approval. So whatever you do, he's going to want to do, whether you tell him or not. So the best way to keep him from doing that is you tell him your story. And this is why I don't want you to do it. So even if he goes and does it, it doesn't mean that he won't be able to say, my daddy didn't tell me something different. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So the thing is, and you get to walk through, why don't I want to tell him? I get that you don't want to tell him for the protection of it all, but is part of it that you might have a little bit of shame? Is part of it, whatever the adjective that will go with that, right?
Yeah.
Why don't I want to share this with my children, whether the son and or the daughter, right? Why don't I want to tell them my story? Because what you don't know is your story will open them up to learn who their daddy is in a whole different way. And let's say they decide that they want to be a Christian, whatever. I'm a Christian, so that's the one I'm gonna land on. So if my daddy was a punitive daddy, which is a punishing daddy, then I'm gonna think God is going to be punishing. But if my daddy is a loving, kind, all sharing daddy, then that's what I'm gonna think my Father in heaven is going to be. He's going to be loving and sharing. He's going to want to give me everything. He's not going to be punitive, nor is he going to want to hold back. So that's why it's so important for daddies to be able to tell their children their stories, good or bad.
Good or bad. I agree. So let me shed a light on the conversation. What I was trying to convey to the people was that he was being specific in terms of my actions in the street.
Right.
The negative, what landed me in why I ended up doing a life sentence.
Right.
And I just didn't think it was appropriate to tell him that story or any other stories that relate to that action or those things that I've done. Because yes, I didn't think I was embarrassed. I was ashamed.
Okay.
It wasn't that I couldn't find words to express to him, hey, I did this, I shouldn't have did it. Now, that being said, I will sit down with him and I'll tell him, hey, well, this is how you should go about it.
Right.
So, right. This is what we need to do. And this is why we need to do it.
Yeah.
Look at my situation, take from it. And that was That's actually what I did. I just was not open in terms of my actions that brought harm to others. I did not want to share.
So have you subsequent done the work to be able to tell him the story? Is that what I'm hearing?
Oh yeah, I speak to my son. Yeah,
Yeah.
I let him know. Again, it was specific. I understood what he was asking.
Yes, I do
And
understand what you're saying.
I wasn't willing to, talk about that with him. But I was willing to let him know after that. I did sit down and say, hey, listen, everything I did landed me right where you see me now.
Right.
And so this is a lesson for you. This is why I'm telling you A, B, and C. That's as far as I went with it. But we do have conversations. He's 36 now. So
it's age appropriate at this point, right? He can handle it.
Well,
It's a matter of can you though?
Yeah, I can deal with it. I can handle it now. This was better than 10 so years ago.
Okay, I understand.
And he had just come into the system. And he came into the system with on the shoulder, this.
Absolutely.
And I'm like, hey, I mean, there's a whole lot to this story.
No. I give no doubt to that, right? It was just that was what I heard.
Yeah.
And I felt like, oh my God, he did such an injustice because you could have told the story even age appropriately. You don't have to give because of course he couldn't have handled it at that, at a 7, or I'm not sure when the offense happened, but he couldn't have handled that at that time, but age appropriately. But I just think that fathers specifically doing injustice to their children without telling them the story, right? And I absolutely learned that because my father just passed away, and we didn't end on good terms, not bad terms, because I had already done the work of forgiving him. He couldn't meet me at my point of need, right? And because he couldn't meet me at my point of need and his backstory, he was doing more harm to me than good. So I had to make a hard decision of I can't reward bad behavior. But when I went back to have a conversation, we went to the services and I got to talk to my little sister, which is a whole nother story. But she told me some things that he said. And if he would have said those things to me, it very well could have made a difference in our relationship. I would have had a different kind of compassion because I understand the brokenness, right? From a logical standpoint, but I'm presenting as a daughter at this point. So, and I had the conversation with somebody that why couldn't you accept him for where he was because of all that he had went through as a child? And I understand that, but his broken pieces cut me. So had he been open enough to share with me, it could have bridged the gap or made a different kind of relationship, because then I would have had a better story of who he was and not secondhand from somebody else. And perhaps he didn't have the emotional wherewithal to share it with me because maybe he had a little bit of shame because at the end he passed from nothing less than alcohol related stuff. Right. So those were his demons, and I get it now on this side, but it doesn't negate that his brokenness cut me. So that's why it's so important. Tell the stories age appropriately, or let me get this far and I'm going to get back with you, right? Yeah. I'm dysregulated now. I need to go gather myself and we can continue this conversation later. But to feel like I'm not important enough for you to tell, because that's what it sounds like to a kid. I'm not important when it's really your stuff, right? It's not the kid stuff, but that's not how it translates to a kid. So it's about the language and you being vulnerable enough to change the dynamic. So that's why it was a key thing for me when I watched that particular video.
And, we were in a different environment. It also was not environmentally appropriate where we were. He ended up getting my 7 prison. That's where this conversation took place.
Right.
And I'm observing his behavior when he come in. He had this thing. I don't know what was told to him by us about me.
Right.
I wanted him to understand none of that matters, man, because look.
But at the end of the day, not to push the narrative, he was literally seeking his daddy in that moment. Not his silly, not his big homie. He wanted his daddy.
Yeah. And I can.
Yeah.
All right. And just so everybody know, I talk to him now. We talk about it.
I love that. Right. Absolutely.
Even when I'm mad.
I love that.
To say, all right, let's talk.
Yeah.
You were saying that we should talk to the children, but what about the kids who they start glorifying it? It can go a whole different way.
Well,
So go ahead.
that's true, right? And kind of you cannot control the narrative because again, just like I told them, at least they cannot say that they weren't told to do something different, right? Because of course, we watch movies, it's glorified.
Right.
It looked like, ooh, I want to drive that car and I want to carry this purse if I'm a girl and I want all of those things, right? That's immaturity. So, but I'm telling you as a parent, you don't want to go down this road. And this is the why. This is why I joined the gang. This is you don't have to go down that road. Now, you can't control outside influence. You can keep them in a cage. And once they get loose, they're going to still go that way. So you don't have control over that, but you do want to be able to at least give them a narrative to go back to. Like, dang, my mama did tell me X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, I told my kids, but I don't think the way I told them was right.
Well, and then there could be
I
that.
didn't know how to communicate.
Yeah, the words are everything.
Yeah.
And how they
What
land.
do we do there when we don't know how to? Oh, we watch this.
Well, you know, when you know better, you do better, right? So you also get to go back and apologize. And I didn't get that right. And I only knew what I knew, right? Some of us, I grew up with my daughter. We don't get along great, right? So it's always something, we're always growing. That doesn't mean that, okay, I'm not her that I was when I was 19 or when I was 24, when I was growing up. So can I have the grace too? But yeah, I didn't always get it right. Parenting doesn't come with a handbook, right? So yeah, we do things and then we get to change our perspective on those things and be like, dang, but those things made me who I am now, but you don't have to go down that road. Now, if you choose to, that's going to be part of your journey and you can grow from it. And then you're going to teach somebody else. So that's how that goes. But the thing is, don't get stuck in it.
So then how do we help to heal those who are of age or a certain age and is involved in these things, or maybe at the age where they don't want to hear this?
Well,
how do we approach that?
So the way that I deal with my clients, right? Do you want to change? Because honestly, some people don't want to change and you have to respect their choice, right? But if there's a crack, there's a crumble.
Right.
So all you need is a little bit of, that's right. Where can I get in?
Mm-hmm.
Because if I keep laying the bricks, eventually I'm gonna build a building. So that's all you need. But the honesty is, if they don't want to change, they're not going to change. I don't care how much you throw at them. I don't care how much you pray about it. I don't care. But God is a gentleman. He's not going to cross a line that you won't let him. So if he's not going to do it, who am I to do it? So that's how that goes. Then you have to go, okay, I'm going to trust you and I'm going to leave you in God's hands, right? In fact, there is a scripture, and I want to say it's in 1 Peter, and I can't remember exactly. So you'll have to look it up. But it literally says, and it took me years to understand the scripture, it says, leave them to Satan to save their soul. And it's like, what? Right? But it took me years to really understand, what does that mean? That means I love you enough to let you go and let the enemy tear you down to bring you back.
Let you go through something.
You're gonna have to go through that, right? And as a parent, that is so hard, but you have to be brave enough to let them fall all the way down, and God's going to catch them and bring them back up.
There you go. I hear you loud and clear.
All right.
Thank you for that. Yes.
Amen.
All right. So yeah, I get what you're saying in that respect. Because we do have a lot of brothers, I think, some which don't want to change. And then we have that side of that segment of brothers who want to change, but don't know how to approach or find the assistance, the support, the help to change.
Right.
So how do we go about it?
So the ones that want to change, right? The very first thing is to support in love.
All right.
Right. Not to condemn.
So what do you mean support and love?
Okay, so so often will drag their past in. You'll never change. Nobody really want to change. I just don't have the tools to change, right? So it's almost like you have to train them like a little kid, like a 3-year-old, or we'll even go an 18-month-old, right? They didn't know how to they know how to pee, but they didn't know how to potty, right? So you have to be patient to teach them how to potty. No, do you have a million times you might have to go to that same man? Are you okay? Do you need to talk? Men don't like to talk. So they're going to put up a wall. No, I'm fine. Because you've been in that situation, you know the thought process, right? So you're going, so then sometime you might have to go, let me throw some bait to get the fish. Right. So I remember in this moment how I was feeling, and I felt alone. Do you feel like that? Right? That's getting bait. And they get to go, dang, I'm not alone. I do feel alone, but this brother right here knows where I've been, and he's being gentle with me. Where are most men being gentle, right? Men don't show up gently, right? So that's why they have that big old armor on, that mask. And it's really about humanity. And we mistreat humanity all the time, right? So if we could teach them, you're okay. We all make mistakes. Your mistake might be a little bit bigger than my mistake, but a mistake is still a mistake, right? So you get to go, I understand. Well, whenever you want to talk, let's talk. I'm here. If I can't do it, I might find someone that can. But every single time is you reach out to that brother and be like, oh, I'm just thinking about you. It's so simple, right? It's that small, a text message. Bro, I'm thinking about you. Because imagine all the men that get out of prison that done this stench that's institutionalized. They don't know how to deal with this world outside of right? So they got to be retrained, and they're scared, right? They can't admit that they're scared, but they're scared, right? So if you reach out to and be like, I'm here for you anytime you want to talk. I know what that looks like. You want to go have breakfast. You want to shout me out, right? It's a consistent pattern of just let me show up and be loving. I'm not condemning. If you need to sit by me and be silent, because you need to learn how to be in the presence and just be in a calm, like my presence is going to be calm, and I'm going to tap in. And if you're not ready, that's cool. We'll do it again and again till you're ready to tap in. Right. So it's almost like inverting the village, the gang into a village now. Right. Right. To support the broken, because the roots are so deep as to, first off, why we got there, and then everything else that led up to whatever happened up until this moment. This is the community. This is the community that we need versus the gang that we need. Right. So it's just, again, changing the narrative. You're still supporting the same homeboys, but from a man standpoint now.
Count the names, count the bodies, count the victory. Cullen Hughes, Hurst, and writing future history. From the Apollo to the borough to the sphere. Where the echo of those Harlem nights still ringing clear. So when they ask what happened in those tenement flats, between the spirituals and where consciousness is at, tell them we transformed suffering to scholarship and song. Tell them we've been telling you we're brilliant all along. The Renaissance will prologue every decade since the sequel. Every black child born's continuation of the people who survived the Middle Passage, survived the Jim Crow laws, and built magnificence from nothing but their vision and their flaws. That's in the sergeant. This is once a less than half this hats and Mercedes. Please don't you, I can't stop us. Power sensitive, watch you the applause for polls. Need your data, talks and counsel any problem when the wet just wanna build the season bait. Now don't get the pause. It's just erasing up the cons. Plead the markets off the main. Make it honor fans turn and neck and love the durn. Suffer like a kesha. You were thrown to preaching up on side as each alone, bitch on the shit and untrue seeing vets. Someone the very it's on Gary Land. Be hell in heaven, you see what the bonafide. If wait talking for the mark, make the key to pull the trumpets on the boards to the singer land is carried open slow to keep us looking on my mother record channel resi for the E and let the peasant be is every time we keep a spawn.